Friends, happy Tuesday. Welcome to Collab Battle. It is so nice to have you here for a very fierce battle indeed, right, Izzy? It always is.
Most definitely, Phil.
We start out hard and then it gets, it gets a little mushy by the end. We're like helping each other. It's supposed to be a battle. Today we're talking about presentations. We have talked about this before, but we've added a descriptor, thrilling presentations, Izzy.
Mhm.
Thrilling presentations. Do you want to elaborate for our friends in the chat, either watching live or catching the replay? Do you want to explain what we mean by thrilling today? It's a little different than before.
Well, I would say that it's how to keep an audience engaged. And
Mhm.
basically, I love what you said previously in previous theme, Phil, that the slides should be your backup dancers and you are Beyonce. But
I
when
believe
you're
that's a
talking,
direct quote. That
it
is a
is a
direct
direct
quote. I
quote,
said
right?
that. Hmm.
But at the same time, in order to keep your audience engaged, specifically if you're talking about something specific, you do need to have that visual aid, and visual aid can emphasize on storytelling. So, in basically, with what you're saying, you should have good backup dancers, and this is what I think we meant by thrilling.
Oh, honey, well done. And we are going to build some beautiful backup dancers in today's show. So we're happy you're here. Shout out to Wade in the chat. Shout out to Barbara. Shout out to Robert and Keys. We got our favorite friends here today. Let's actually go ahead and share your screen to start, Izzy. Friends, you are looking at the remixable template that we have created for you. So you're going to watch us a design live today, and I can't wait for you to hear from Izzy what our project is based on today. It's so cute. But just know that all the features and the workflows that we're working on today, you can adapt these for yourself. And the remixable template that we've linked to in the description below is going to get you one step closer to being able to create those thrilling presentations. So, Izzy, with that note, I'll let you kickstart us today. And I think I should also note last week we talked about media kits, a speaker one sheet, and you were our use case. And we're going to continue with that today. You're going to be our personal brand because I think this is really relevant for our audience and we can kind of continue this. This is almost like a little part two.
Exactly. There was a true line in mind whenever we were building those shows. And I mean, I don't want to steal your thunder because you know more about this, but there was some new features too that was added
Sure.
to the presentations.
Absolutely. In fact, why don't we talk through some of those features? What we can do is we can start from a template. Friends, there's nothing better than hopping into the template gallery in Adobe Express if you are not feeling particularly inspired. That's what you're doing right now, Izzy. You're clicking through and finding one that is just a good starting point. I heard last week someone referred
Mm.
to Adobe Express and Adobe as like Adobe level quality. It's just like, you guys, there's so many sophisticated starter designs here to get you closer to what we would call and what we've called before proof of concept, right, Izzy? I love this. I love this template that you chose. Simple, elegant, and now with some of the new features that Express has added specifically for presentations. If you can believe, a few months ago when we tackled this topic, Express actually didn't have presentations in the traditional sense. But now we can click up on that top right, and we've got a new option that says present. And that's going to enable
Oh,
us to
here,
go full
present. Let me do
screen.
it.
There we go. Yep, we can go full screen with that presentation, friends. And now, rather than having to, for example, download those slides as a PDF and open them in full screen, now you have the ability to actually present from Adobe Express with that presentation content type. And that's created by default when you choose presentation from the content or from the Canvas options when you click that purple plus sign on the Express homepage. One more thing I want to point out while we're here, because we're not fun with them today, Izzy, when you click, it might be a little small on the screen, but you'll see here the slide options that are now available at the very bottom. When you click those three dots, you'll see a new feature, which is add transition. And so when presentations launched in Express, we had, I think, one or maybe two transitions. Now there's a whole handful of them. And you'll be able to see these in action as we build out Izzy's slideshow today. Lots of really good ones, lots of really fun ones.
Let's do it just so we can see, just as a
Let's do
preview,
it.
what we will be. So essentially, if I go present,
Yep.
current page, and then I do next, we didn't see it much. It's supposed to dissolve, but I think there's no background image at the back. So that's why we did see the
Oh, that's
dissolve
true.
here.
And also dissolve is a little more of a subtle one. So I recommend
Correct.
that transition for
Let's
professional
do
brands.
a
Maybe you're a
white.
lawyer or a bank or something like that. Then dissolve is a good kind of subtle one.
There you go. Then we saw
There's
the
a little
white.
wipe. That looks good. Yeah,
There you go.
looking good.
Okay.
Tell us what we're going
So
to design today, Izzy.
today we're going to design a presentation for a public speaking engagement of mine. And I have a full script here. And I know this is maybe counterintuitive for some people, but for me, I need to know exactly what I'll be saying before building a presentation. So I have my full script here and basically putting like the slides will help to pace my momentum and what I'm hitting on and what I want the audience to retain. So at
Yes.
first is I want to have my title on the first slide, but technically I'm going to move this around because the way that I've built this presentation, I'm not seeing the title until a little later on. But
Okay.
the title will kind of dictate the visual identity of the full presentation. So I want to be working on that first.
Fantastic.
So with the brands here, I have added some fonts, some photos, and all this. So here, I'm just going to be copy pasting directly because that's another thing. I am bad at grammar. And
It's fine. You beat us all when it comes to languages. Okay. So, sure. If you're not good at grammar, then let's remember the fact that you're completely bilingual.
yes.
That's a decent
Oh, but
excuse,
it's
I'd
like
say. By the way,
often,
Pedro in the chat says, "Is this the Izzy Poirier live?"
ah,
You better believe it is, Pedro. I know. I feel honored. I get to co-host with her every single week.
oh my goodness, the feeling is mutual. Pedro is a good friend of mine. It's so good to see you here, Pedro.
Raphael is also checking in. He says, "Izzy, I hope your rebrand process is going well." I think Raphael just became your accountability partner.
Yes.
He wants an update.
I love this. Well, it is going well. I actually had a meeting with my web developer earlier today when we talked about how my website is going. So this is really good. Just want to make sure I hit the center line. Here you go. I don't like fluff for this. This is what I mean by fluff here. I'm
Yeah.
just going to delete everything, specifically for a home page or starter page.
Intro, like an intro slide.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. Thank you.
Now, did you see earlier that this is for a real speaking engagement? This is something that you're actually going to deliver.
So it's something that I technically already have delivered on, but with what we have learned last week on Media Kit, my goal is to take the pictures and videos from that engagement and then sending it to other like public speaking events so I can be on stage once again. Because I
You're
love being on
also,
stage.
do you? So in some respect, also you're legitimizing your thought leadership in this respect. And this could be a talk that you give more than once, or maybe you give it a different name or
Mm-hmm.
customize it for the engagement. But I think it's really super important to have like a core topic or a core deck that you present from. I know from years of speaking, it's always me either opening the deck from the last one that I did, make tweaks on it for the next one, and it kind of builds on itself. And it's exciting that all of that can now be done in Adobe Express directly.
Absolutely. And it's essentially as you get busier and busier, sometimes, I mean, I am a Mac girl, and this has happened way too many times that my files would go back in the iCloud on my laptop, and then the connection was really bad, and I couldn't download my presentation or whatsoever that I was working on. But then having it on like on the web like this is the best because then it's accessible everywhere, and you know that this page will load wherever you go because it's not a heavy file.
Absolutely. And also, how neat to be able to work on this from the Adobe Express mobile app. That might be a
Hmm.
workflow that we're not used to. I was working last week on a presentation deck while I was on a train, and like I've never been able to do that, like from my phone. Even better from a laptop, but in this case, working from my phone, I was able to actually make progress on a presentation. I always say, like anything that I can use that is not PowerPoint. Thankfully, Microsoft is not a sponsor on this stream because I'd get in big trouble. But Izzy, I
Yes.
do not like PowerPoint, and I have a feeling other
Yep.
people are in the same boat as me. By the way, chat, how do you feel? How do you feel about PowerPoint? Someone in the chat is saying my voice is low. Let me increase the volume there. Tell me if that's a little better. I can adjust that on this end. Friends in the chat, Behance and YouTube, do you guys like PowerPoint? Or do you prefer the idea of creating presentations in Express? I know for one, the fact that I've created so many projects in Express prior to this, Izzy, I love that I can open like a previous Instagram post.
Hmm.
I could open a newsletter. I could open a video project, and I can literally paste elements from those previously developed projects and Express directly into my presentation, worrying about importing from a different platform, etc. Thanks, Wade, for
Absolutely.
letting me know the volume is good. Just checking with you guys. Let us know. Talk us through what you're doing, Izzy.
So I guess I have to give you a little bit of the presentation and the premise. So
You do. I'm ready
the
for this.
so essentially the theme that I was invited to speak on was momentum and basically for me how I created momentum in my own career was by creating my own opportunities. And how I'm starting this storytelling goes back to when I was younger and how I have painted a white cat. I was 5 years old.
What?
Yeah, I know. It is a story on its own. And essentially, we had found a white cat that had escaped from its home. And the night before we were supposed to give it back to its owner, I decided to give it some improvements. So uh, it was crazy to say the least, because I kid you not, Phil, at the end, that cat could have been a mascot in a gay parade because it was extremely colorful and beautiful and fluffy. And like to
It's
me,
Pride Month. That would be very timely, Izzy. That would be very
right?
timely. Well done.
So anywho, so let me go find my assets here because I have generated an image for you, for all of you.
What we're looking at is your asset gallery in your brand
Yes,
set up in Express.
exactly.
I want to shout out to Barbara who said, I haven't used PowerPoint for at least 20 years. Barbara, now you can use Express for your presentations. That's what we're doing today. And what else? Pedro said, Keynote and Express are my favorite prototyping tools. That is so cool
Love
to
it.
hear that you're using Express. Keynote is a great platform. Traditionally, I'm starting to move over my presentations into Express directly because now we can go full screen in that present mode, which we showed you earlier in the stream. Keynote is a great one. If you're using Keynote, a little tip, good transition effect between slides is magic move, and it can really
Hmm.
bring your presentations to life. For me, I also use Google Slides. To be honest, I use a combination of all three. Obviously, today we're talking about Express, but there's nothing wrong with jumping between the different tools to be able to present, depending on what the project is. Remember, too, that in Express, also, I didn't mention this on the top, but you can actually import PowerPoint files now into
This is
Express,
insane. Yes.
right?
It
And
is
so
insane.
I don't have
Yes,
a campaign against Keynote or Google Slides. I do have a campaign against PowerPoint. The joy of
there
being
you
able to
go.
bring those PowerPoint files directly into Express now means that you can um, work in Express, which we're all comfortable with and loving. It just seems to be getting better and better. Okay, now explain what we're looking at.
Okay, so basically, I'm using this story because I saw a white canvas in front of me and I went for it. And this is basically the premise of creating your own opportunities, right? Like, it's not like anywho. And this is the kind of a funny way to just showcase some personality. But I did not have a picture of myself with the cat back then. So I actually, if I like remove everything, all the layers, I actually generated a photo of a painted white cat in Photoshop. I started by expanding and then added a cat, and the cat took a little bit of tweaking. So if I like remove some of the, see like the face that was added after, I was like, just cat face, generate Phil. Um, like see, it did that at the beginning. I did not like it. But anywho, and then I started to add some colors to the cat. Maybe I can like zoom in so you can see. And this was also very hard to do. I had to do a lot of masking and all this. I even went into Firefly, created some colored fur, and then implemented it here. So there was a whole photo montage for this like photo. And then even like fixing this, I'm like, what's this here? And then I had to fix dress, and I even named that layer fix dress, and then added some brightness and saturation. And then I brought it into a Polaroid, which is what we are seeing. If I go back here, I have some, there you go, which is what we are seeing here, which I think is like a cool way to start the story. And then I think adding a little text box with saying, no one was harmed, this was AI
Yeah.
generated for your purposes, is kind of like a funny way also to start. So no
It's funny, but it's
cats.
also impressive. A lot of times when we're talking about AI in the context of creativity, it's aimed at, oh, this will make things faster, or this will help you with the
Mm-hmm.
tedious projects. But I love your use case today, Izzy. You're saying, actually, it wasn't quick, it was a journey. But by using AI, you were able to actually give color, quite literally, to the
Mm-hmm.
cat. You're able to give color to your storytelling, which quite literally is the backbone and the secret ingredient for any keynote speaker. I can tell you, huge category of clients of mine over the years as a personal branding strategist. I've had many, many clients who are keynote speakers, some of which charge 20, 30, 40,000
Oh,
dollars
wow.
per engagement or more. Yeah. And I've learned just in this job that the secret to a good speaker is the ability to obviously disseminate information in a way that people can absorb, but you do that by pairing great storytelling. And it is so cool that you used Firefly, even if that first result, we always think like type in a prompt and we expect, okay, it's going to be perfect. But no, you have actually brought this up before in our show. I brought it up before, but like you almost, I make a rule, don't accept the first result from
Mm-hmm.
AI. That's just the beginning of the creative process. And no one would even know that you would have generated that with AI. And I actually love that you're telling people that you did use AI to create that.
Thank you. And it, like, to me, it's also kind of, it adds on the funny because um like let's say there's a panel after the presentation, which I did in the previous engagement that I had. And my parents were actually in the room, and I think I prompted the audience by saying, like, by the way, this is a true story. You can ask my parents who are right here and ask me what happened after. This as like planting the seed, because oh my goodness. And I can tell you what happened after, because the owner was coming the next morning to pick it up, and my mom had to clean like the cat, and we all know that cat, they hate
They
being
don't
put under
like being
water.
wet. Yeah.
So oh my goodness, my poor mother got bitten like right up in her wrist, like right here, while she was cleaning the cat, and she had to go for a tetanus shot the next day, not knowing where the cat came from, just to be safe on the bacterial side. So it is a whole story. So it definitely was uh like a moment in all of our lives as a family. So
That is,
it
and
made the
all you wanted
presentation
to
for
be
a
was
reason.
creative. You just wanted to be
Exactly.
creative.
Yeah, I saw an opportunity and I went for it. Like,
You
right?
certainly
Like,
did. Well, it makes a good
so
story now.
exactly. Now I need just someone to pay me $20,000 for telling it.
Well, we're working on it, honey. We're working on
There
it.
you
We're gonna
go.
have that
There you
slide
go.
deck to justify it.
So here, if the theme of the event or the whatever topic that I'm talking about, I'd like to just anchor it in a presentation. Maybe you can give your thoughts on that, Phil. Like, is it something that you should be repeating when you're on stage, and just to make sure that the audience like knows what you're talking about and just that
Yes.
connection with the overall event?
Yes. Let me talk through some ideas here. Essentially, you're building a template for yourself. Ideally, you keep certain elements of your slide design consistent for a few reasons. Visually, to complement the storytelling that's coming out of your mouth, you also want to complement that storytelling happening on a slide. And so, by taking advantage of consistent placement and layout, it's just visually going to be consistent from slide to slide. Also, think about how you could add in some of those transition effects. For example, Izzy, if you were to create a title slide that didn't have a background, duplicate it to create exactly the same slide, but
Mm,
maybe you add an image in the background. By going from that first to second slide, it's actually going to illustrate an animation. And that's not you having to go into After Effects and add an animation. Even in Express, you can animate certain elements in a project. But in this case, you're just duplicating a slide, adding a background, and depending on that transition effect, it's gonna create that kind of visual. And those are very, very powerful on stage. I do that all the time. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Change one element. That's my rule. Change one element
mm.
between slides, and it feels more like a story that you're sharing to complement whatever it is you're talking about.
I love this. So I like when there's a lot of interactivity in a presentation as well. And this here would be the moment where I'm asking a question to the audience and I'm like, momentum? Like, what does this have to do with momentum, right? Like, what does the story here have to do with momentum? So I have the video, that famous GIF of that cat that does, huh? And it's also a white cat, which is perfect.
Perfect.
um, so this is like a cultural reference that a lot of people knows if you're a cat lover. Like I don't know if you people in the chat under like recognizes that, but I'm actually curious because I haven't tried it yet, but I'm almost keen to pressing play to see how the play function of a video works in a presentation.
We should
This
try it
is
out. Let's try it
yeah.
out. That's what we do
Okay.
here. In the meantime, I'm going to read this comment from Robert. He said, a good speaker is one who can speak about a nail for 1 hour without the audience falling asleep. Amen to that. Barbara
It is
agrees. Love
working.
it. It is working. It's working
It is
perfectly.
working. This is awesome. Yes.
And this is
And
really like a minimalist design, and that is
yes.
so important. One other thing, when you're putting a slideshow together or a slide deck like we're doing today, I bet it looks amazing on your computer at home, but you don't necessarily know what environment you're going to be presenting from in real life. So the best thing that you can do is really make things legible, easy to read, and also position yourself to be able to make changes quickly just in case, let's say you arrive at that venue and the lighting is dark or the color is off on the projector. There are so many variables. It's a really good idea to build these presentations in Express where you can literally log in a browser and make any kind of changes that you need from your computer or your phone.
So here this is the part where I would introduce myself. So
Now
it is
showing off that
confusing
those bilingual
with
skills.
the
I see what you're doing.
accent. Yeah,
Yeah, with
exactly.
the accent.
um, so it's just because like some people, like I am transitioning into like just introducing myself as Izzy, but for the longest time it was Isabelle. So I'm still mentioning that if ever there's someone in the audience that knows me more as Isabelle Poirier instead of Izzy. So like this is just an anchor, I guess, if you want. And you know what? I will probably make that a little smaller so we don't put that much emphasis on it. And maybe
Can you talk
even,
about your use of a separate font in the same text block? Because I think it looks really cool.
so actually this looks a little weird with the aloe there, which I'm just gonna separate. It's just so I can have like a visual cue. So for people to like memorize this information. Like I want them to remember me as Izzy. So this is why I'm choosing to change the font here. And you know what? I'm gonna make it bigger. I think I want aloe to be an accent. And then Izzy as well. And I'm going to make that white. And
This is
also
an
feel
instance
like,
where you started to work with
yes.
one text block. I do this all the time. I start with one and then I go, actually, I want a little more control over how each word is displayed. That's really easy in Express. You can copy and paste a text block and then make those adjustments, duplicate as many as you need. That way you're getting this full control over the layout and the colors.
And then let me see if I have a Polaroid because I started with everything in a Polaroid template like this, I would want to have the same throughout the whole presentation. But I think
Yes,
I
that
actually
visual
have
consistency we're talking about.
correct. So I think I may even have a video of a oops GIF of
Might I add that having a black background is generally a great idea, a darker colored background for a presentation, because it is the easiest color. This is probably a whole other conversation, is black a color? But it's the easiest thing to represent on a slide, right? So even if the colors are off or the lighting isn't great in a room, having that kind of maximum contrast is generally a very good idea.
so I don't have the video that I've already made for some reason. Let me just pick this here as
Perfect.
like this is, then I'll
Was that
just,
already in a Polaroid
yes,
or
it
do you have those
was,
as
yeah.
separate layers? Okay, got it.
But I had a GIF of like just multiple Polaroids of like a few photos of me just to like show like the like how versatile, because this is where I would say my titles, right? I would say ODC founder,
Yep.
Adobe Live, and it's like showing me in all of those different roles. But then I can't find it because videos is not something that can be added yet in the
Yet.
assets. Just yet. Also, I'm not feeling that green, so I'm gonna change it to maybe something like, yes, I'm feeling that.
Oh, I like that. That's looking good. Also neat that you, let's say that Polaroid was a template in Photoshop, a PSD. If you save that to the cloud, so save that to your cloud documents, you can access those in Express by going to your stuff. And there you can see projects that you've saved to the cloud from Photoshop and Illustrator, as well as your other Express projects. That's just a little tip. If you're wanting to create, for example, a linked asset, that's where you would grab it, go to your stuff. In this case, you're uploading it, which is totally fine. If you wanted to, say, for example, you're building a presentation template for your team, I often recommend the designer actually upload a linked asset because that gives you control as the creative to update that asset in the future directly in
Mm,
Photoshop and not have to manually replace that in a slew of templates. So linked assets can be a really good idea if you're creating something that may need to be changed in the future.
We'll see here, this is actually a GIF that I have made in Photoshop. So if I press play here, you can see like there's just like multiple photos, and this is from my university days. So
I love it.
I like it. And essentially there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube for this, and even on Adobe Live on how to create a GIF. And then when I exported it as a video in order to have this in Adobe Express.
Yes.
Then I
But
feel
that is
like,
possible in presentations. You're able to have a slide in there that becomes a video by adding in a video element on that slide. Then you're ready to rock.
absolutely. Let me add some transitions here. Gonna do the
Wade
white.
says, high contrast for the win. Alessandra says, hey,
Yes.
everyone. Hey, Alessandra. You guys are just joining us. We are creating thrilling presentations today. We are personally thrilled about a handful of new presentation features. We did presentations, gosh, it was months ago, but there's a few things that I wanted to call out now. A specific presentations type of content in Express, which gives us that beautiful present button up in the top right. Izzy, if you want to click that on your favorite slide so far, we should show them how
Yes.
this looks full screen.
There
Boom.
you go.
We have not even left Adobe Express, and there we are presenting our slide deck. That one can be presented in full screen directly from Express. Two can now have a handful of really awesome transition effects, similar to what you might find in other popular presentation software. Things like dissolve, which is like more of a subtle effect, or a swipe, which is a neat one. There's a whole bunch of them. You can access those when you are in your project by clicking the three dots on the slide specifically. Izzy will show you this in a second. This looks awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
I love that transition effect in action.
Let me add
There's
it
that animated gift as a video.
here.
You're going to add that. There we go. So that's where you would go to add a transition in Express. And then the final new feature related to presentations that I wanted to mention in Express is the ability to import a PowerPoint. Love it.
Love it. Okay, what do I want to do next? Okay, so here, going to be doing a little bit of montage. So here I want to reference some previous work that I have done. So this is a laptop. Just going to center this, and let me add another photo just so you can see. Actually, this here could be good.
You're pulling in assets that I think are set up in your brand kit, correct?
Correct. Yes. So this is on top, but I want to bring it at the back. So technically, I have pre-cut, like pre-removed the background within my, here, as you can see.
Laptop, yeah.
My laptop. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. and to showcase some work like this. So this is also a way, because I'm going to be referencing some of my work throughout the presentation and that growth in my design practice. So this is, again, something that I can easily duplicate and then even come and replace that work that is inside the laptop. So I'm going to do that actually right now. I'm just going to just lock the laptop for now. Then I'm going to go to this Canada Beyond 150, crop it. So then it's not coming out like at the bottom, which kind of breaks what we're trying to do. And there you go.
Looking good, looking
I need
good.
to adjust it a little bit.
I'm just so happy that you can do this in Express without having to leave. For example, I've made freebies, I've made Instagram content, I've made so many things in Express. And the idea of having to bring those elements into another presentation software is kind of stressful. the beauty of this by having so many projects of all different media types in Express is they can really, you can leverage what you've already created by pasting elements in there.
I actually want to make it really big because this is like a big pivotal moment for me. This was my first branding project, and it is from the
Cool.
government, which out of all places. I worked for the
Well
government for
done for a
5 years.
first project.
Thank you. And this is how when I fell in love with branding. And I actually want to copy this here. And yes, the gov was a lot of highs and lows for me, but where I have learned a lot.
Yeah.
So this is
Generally, government project, at least in my experience, it's very slow moving. And there are lots of people that like to weigh in and give their opinion.
not this.
No?
This was because it was a very small department, and I was the only designer in the whole comms team, and they trusted me, which was amazing. And I had to build a brand in 3 days, a full
Oh,
brand
wow.
identity. So it felt very agency like, and even the way that department operated, it was very much agency like because we were only 30 people. And yeah, I have learned so much, and I think that's why I loved it so much because it operated like an agency, but then change of management, and then everything went downhill from there. So
That happens. That's
uh,
happened with companies for me. That's happened with a handful of clients. Isn't it amazing how much the people impact the joy of the work?
mhm, yes. But if it weren't from this, I would not be on Adobe Live today. I would not have my own business. So yes, it sucked going through it, but I'm so grateful for it sucking.
There's that silver lining that we
There
always
you go.
find.
So here I'm just going to ungroup. So I have duplicated this slide here, and I'm just going to change the asset that I want to replace with some other work. Replace with in brands, view all. Let's do this. I feel like this is a good one. Yes, there you go. This was actually on Adobe Live.
That's very cool. We talked earlier about only changing one element. And when we actually go into full screen, you'll see how that makes such an impact. That kind of continuity between slides really
Let's do
helps.
it.
It's just very professional.
So if we do current page and then we do next.
I love
I
it.
forgot
Look
the
how cool that
transition,
is.
but that, yes. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. Let me add a transition.
You should try a few. Let's try a few and show people a preview of which
Okay,
transitions are now in
let's do a
Express.
push. Let me change them here. I have a white, let's do a slide, and could we do a dissolve here maybe? There you go. Let's go from the beginning. Present, disclaimer. Then we have the video here. You don't have the sound, but the sound makes it so good.
Love it. I love the two fonts that you
Right,
used.
they seem to be all sliding. Maybe, let me see.
You are able to add different
Oh, there
transition
you go.
effects in a project. You also can click that button. Once selected, you can apply to all slides. That can be an easy way. That button is down at the bottom. That could be an easy way to pick one and then just in a single click, apply it to all of the slides in your presentation.
I like that. So then I can forget about it. Perfect. Oh, so I think a slide that comes before this one, like before we get into the happy times, is actually when I talk about when I was not happy at the government. So I will duplicate this one. And this is what I love the most with Express I can just duplicate. And I love duplicating because it saves so much time.
So much time.
And this here, I'll do like the old time emoji, like so.
It's also, I mean, when I think about being able to work on this from a browser, from a mobile device,
Mhm.
it's just so cool. So many times I've had to like pre-download all my assets to work in, let's say, Keynote or another tool and be able to work on that on a flight to a speaking engagement. Yes, because I'm sometimes last minute with these things. But like just to be able to work from a browser is just the coolest thing.
Absolutely.
Looking at the chat,
Okay.
there's some chatter going on about all the different apps and tools that people use. A mention of Adobe Animate, which I haven't tried. A mention of Keynote, which is obviously an Apple program. Google Slides is a popular one. PowerPoint is one that often dominates the conversation. A PowerPoint is that's like become a common noun, you know, that's like everyone knows what that means. But we're hopeful that presentations in Express bring a little more joy to your life in the world of presenting.
So I really like this slide here. So let me just go and replace the image actually
Good
from
call.
my library. And I have exactly the right one for it. There you go. And the reason why it's black and white, if I go back here, it's because there's an effect apply on it. So here you can see there's a grayscale, and then there's an adjustment of contrast, brightness, and all this. So again, I love that it was thought of for me. I'm just going to place this. And this is a photo from a zine launch. And then at the top, I love when you can juxtapose photos because it's just emphasizes storytelling so much. And again, because we have stayed so minimalist with the other slides, this
Yes.
is definitely something that I'm very happy about and that I want to highlight. So juxtaposing two images and then having something like this on top. Oh no, there's a
Yeah.
background. I need to remove the background.
Well, you
That
could
may
do that
not.
in Express.
I'm just worried about the two black, like the black background and then the black page. But let's try.
Yeah, give it a try. I also wonder if you crop in closer, if that might
Oh,
help.
yeah, I can definitely do this. So let's
I know
crop
that
here.
remove background has gotten so much better in Express.
Well,
I find myself
let's try
opening,
it. Let's
try
try
it
it
out.
to like remove the
And then if it's
background.
something you need to
So
finesse a little more, then that's a great instance of opening up
mhm.
Photoshop to have a little more control over
That
that.
was perfect. That
How
was
about that?
This is perfect.
Friends, we
Okay.
don't just
Well,
say it,
there you
we
go.
prove it, we show it. We don't just say it's better, we prove it's gotten better. That was very well done.
So actually, you know what? Because the other one is actually one of my spreads, I want to be like, this is my artwork. So I want to showcase that. Then let's do it.
I love it. Friends in
Yes.
the chat, watching live, or catching the replay, we'll also spend a few minutes showing you some controls in here that have been added more recently. Let's say, for example, you're building a template for a client or for a friend or someone else. There are a few things I'll point out. Once Izzy's got her design down pat in the last few minutes of the stream, I'll show you how to lock elements as well as lock and allow replace is an instance where, for example, you want to hand off a template. Let's say, Izzy, this was a template for your team.
Mhm.
You'd want to be able to give your team a template to say, hey, you can update the text, but I'm the branding police. You're not allowed to actually change the font, the color, or the size. That is now possible in
You know what?
Express.
Let's do it because
Shall
I
we try
feel
it?
like I think we should try it. Let me delete some of those pages at the end.
Yeah, that happens
I
as you're
didn't really
working on a
use
template.
this much, but they're
Yeah, you didn't
gorgeous.
need
So
them. You didn't need them. I will sometimes put like a blank white page or a black page and just keep some of those template slides in the background if you ever need them. This is an instance where you probably don't. And I love that your slides are your backup dancers. That was the mission, and you're really delivering on that. So If you, let me show you two things. If you were to right click on any of those text fields, friends, pay attention to this. This is exciting. If you right click, or if you're working on a Mac, it would be control click, I think it is.
Yes, but hold on.
Basically, when you right click, you have the ability to lock that. There's also the control when
Here,
that element
like,
is selected. Yep, right up there. And that is now completely locked. So let's say it's a logo. Let's say it's brand approved copy that you don't want them to change. Then that's an element you can lock. And then more recently, now we can lock and allow replace, which means they can only change the text itself rather and not the style, which is also helpful for templates.
like this here, this you can still, it's not locked. But then when it's shared, oh yeah, text can be replaced. I just have to check this box
There you
right
go.
here. And there you
By
go.
checking that box,
Wow.
exactly. Now you can actually hit that edit button right below there. And that's going to enable you to change what the text says, but you won't be able to change the actual text style, font, or size.
This is great. Oh, now it's telling me that my box is not big enough for my text. I'll just say hello. Overflowing text.
Exactly. So when you're allowing replace on a locked element, I recommend normally you go a little bit bigger on the box size just in case, because it will protect that. That's how you have those guardrails, we call them, in place so that people can't mess up your beautiful designs. Keys says subtitles to this are fun. Phil,
I'm happy we
build a
tested it.
template for a client.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I know, right? This is the beauty of us doing this. I feel like I learn new things, you learn new things. We bring our chat along for the learning moments.
Yes. Now, Phil, you mentioned something that's new for TikTok too. Like this is a new
Oh, we should
feature.
talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah.
we should talk about that. This got some airtime yesterday with our friends. My dear friend Lucas O'Keefe was in studio in San Francisco. And so we'll maybe just call out, this is a new feature even for me, but we'll show you where it is. This is a feature that you can try on your own. So what we'll do is we'll go down to add-ons, which is actually on that toolbar far left, add-ons. I'm working on your screen here, so I'm like shrinking my, there we
Yeah,
go.
your service. Here, I
Yes.
got it. Add-ons.
There you go. Yeah, and there's so many friends. I recommend that if you've not spent time in here, you're going to navigate to the TikTok, which is that red add-on. We'll just show you where it is. The TikTok Creative Assistant is really, really helpful for coming up with content ideas. Let's say, for example, Izzy, what we were talking about earlier, you put all this work into a presentation, and then you go,
this one here?
yeah, right there. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And you don't actually have to install it. In this, I just want to mention, actually, the name has been updated. TikTok Symphony Assistant. It was called Creative Assistant. Oh, things are always changing. But friends, this is where it is. And know that more recently, they've got access to music that you have permission to use as part of your projects. And that's really unique to Express and unique in general to be able to access that outside of TikTok. I think it's so cool that TikTok and Express have this really beautiful partnership. It's making content creation really easy. I know from being in San Francisco and LA last week, Izzy, I was working on an event about Express, but for the context of business, I can't tell you how many people were so excited about being able to build presentations in Express. And now something like this, I just wanted to give it some airtime since it's brand new. Something like this would enable you to take a presentation, turn it into a TikTok. So unconventional, right? To go from like a YouTube thumbnail to a reel or vice versa. Duplicate and resize makes that possible in Express. And I just love how easy it's made. So I just wanted to call that out. I wanted to give it a few minutes. I know that we can't play music on YouTube for copyright, but we have a really good stream about this from the Adobe Live team that went to air yesterday. So catch that replay, friends. Thanks, Izzy, for the reminder to call that out.
Of course. So here, actually, maybe we can do this. So I would, because I would love to have a TikTok about this here, just to create some intrigue to actually advertise my public speaking engagement. So let
Good
me
idea. Let
duplicate
people know
it.
you're a speaker.
Yes. It's so weird to be adding this title to the mix here. Okay, so I would go here into resize, and here you have all of the size pre-made. So resize, and I have it here. So, okay, I need to be just rejuggling a few things here, but that's okay. I'm going to
It
just
is okay.
remove.
It's going to save you a fraction of the time. It's typical that you might
Yeah.
have to just move things around, adjust some sizes. That's the beauty of duplicate and resize. Super powerful that we can spend time finessing versus having to
Yes.
build something from scratch. Link 1111. I see you in the chat. You said, are you answering questions today? We have a few minutes left. So if you want to get your question into the chat, we'll keep an eye here. Wade, thank you. As he said, we're running out of time. We're in our last few minutes of the stream, but I'll keep a close eye on those questions and we can answer them if we have the time. Izzy's designing a TikTok here, and we could be using that new TikTok add-on to be able to add music to this. And we could even use, we won't demonstrate it today, but we could use Scheduler in Express, even on a free account. That's going to get us, or give us rather, the ability to make our hard worked designs and put them on social media. There's so much you can do without even having to leave Express.
Let me put in some animation here so we can slide that in. Same thing with this here. Slide, and then what happens if I press play? Woohoo! I feel like it's a little too short.
Too exciting, too thrilling, okay. Izzy, is that what you're saying?
Thrilling, yes, exactly. But here with this, how do I would basically,
I love that
be
creating
adding... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I love that creating a TikTok, or this could be a YouTube short, it could be an Instagram reel. I love that that was like an afterthought and you basically already have one in less than 5 minutes. We love Express for that reason.
Absolutely. I would probably do the same thing with this too, right? Like just when I'm introducing myself as another TikTok, as a follow-up for advertising this public speaking engagement. And I would probably be adding some voiceover on here too, just so I can tell the story. Because I feel like for me specifically, this is the hook of everything. And people are like, what?
Yeah.
What's happening? So I would want to make a splash with this. So actually, let me make it.
I think that you've made a splash. You'll put those final touches on this. But friends, we're coming up to our final minute here on the stream. Izzy, you've done everything. Yeah, present it, baby. Let's see it. Let's see it for a few seconds. Let's see those finished slides. Hoping you feel inspired by literally how Izzy and I, but mostly Izzy today, have brought to life a slideshow from scratch. Using some images and some video that maybe you had from another project, you've brought it to life in literally seconds. And that is only possible with Express. Express is for creative pros. Express is for beginners. Express is literally for everyone. And now with presentations, as you can see on the screen, you can present full screen. You can import PowerPoint files. You can add slide transitions. New ones were added recently. It's just awesome. Someone likes my festive cup. It looks like Christmas. It's not. It's a Starbucks mug that I got in Thailand, but I do drink green tea out of it. Izzy, we're back next week, aren't we?
Yes,
I think it's our final of this season. We're going to be designing a poster. So this time next Tuesday, you'll see us for our final edition of Collab Battle, at least for now. Friends, you've been so lovely in the chat. It's been lovely to have you. And thanks for interacting and engaging. We always appreciate you. Stay tuned for more. There's some good stuff coming up. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks for collab battling with us. And thank you as always, Izzy.
Thank you, Phil. See you next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.